Okay, time for solving equations. Now, remember in math that solving equations means rearranging the formula so you're solving for the unknown variable. And in math, we can do anything to one side of an equation as long as we do it to the other. So what we do when we solve variables is we do the opposite math function to cancel it. The other thing we do when we're solving equations is we actually work backwards through BEDMAS. We do the subtraction and addition before we do the harder stuff within multiplication, division, exponents, and brackets. So let's look at the first example. So here we have it. 10 equals 2x plus 15. So the way that we're going to solve this, again, we're going to work backwards through BEDMAS. So we don't have any subtraction. We're going to do the addition first. In order to cancel the plus 15 and move it to the other side, because we want to get the variable all by itself, we have to do the opposite math function. So the opposite math function of adding 15 is actually subtracting 15. But we're allowed to do it to this side as long as we also do it to this side of the equation. So 10 minus 15 is negative 5. Now, on this side of the equation, all we have left is 2x, because plus 15 and minus 15 canceled each other. So we're on our way to getting that x by itself. So now we're moving along. We have multiplication. So the opposite math function of multiplication is division. So in order to cancel the 2 from this side, we have to divide this side by 2. We're allowed to do that in math as long as whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So again, there's the 2's cancel, and negative 5 divided by 2 negative 5 divided by 2 is negative 2.5. So x in this example would be negative 2.5. Okay, let's look at one more example. Here's a bit of a harder one. Here we have some brackets and division. So again, we're going to go opposite through this. Now we can't do this plus 3 yet because technically it's inside the bracket. So we're going to start with this divide by 5. Again, we have to do that opposite math function. So divide by 5, the opposite math function is multiply by 5. And whatever we do to one side, we're allowed to do it as long as we do the same thing to the other side. So multiply by 5 cancels divide by 5. We're left with 2 bracket x plus 3 equals, oops, I wrote the answer, equals 50. There we go. All right, so now we can get rid of this multiplication. So to get rid of that, we have to divide by 2. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So that cancels. X plus 3 is left over. And 50 divided by 2 is 25. Now we can do that addition. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. And whatever you do to one side, you can do to the other. So in this case, x equals 22. Okay, so just remember, you're always going backwards through BEDMAS. You're looking at solving for the unknown by canceling the math functions by doing the opposite math function. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Now, sometimes in science, we have to just reorganize formulas. And I know a lot of people don't like looking at this and trying to solve for an unknown because for some reason, they just forget what they're doing. Now, all you have to do is pretend that the letters were numbers. You're still going to solve for the unknown. We want to get the unknown all by itself by canceling off the other math functions. The only thing is when we have just letters, we can't actually do the math. So we're just moving stuff. So I'm going to do an easy example here. I want to solve for W. So I want to keep W on this side, and I want to move this L over, right? Area equals length times width. So the opposite math function of multiplication is division. So whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other. So this cancels now. So area divided by the length is equal to the width. So that's the reorganized formula. So here's a little bit more of a more complicated one. Again, I want to solve for L in this case. So again, remember BEDMAS, we're going to go backwards through BEDMAS. So we're going to start with, oops, I forgot my multiplication, BEDMAS, there we go. There's no subtraction, we're going to start with the addition. The opposite of addition is subtraction, so I have plus 2w here. I'm going to subtract 2w from this side, and whatever I do to this side, I want to do this side as well. So over here I'm going to have p minus 2w equals 2l. So now I'm left with, I have to get the L all by itself. Again, this is multiplied to 2, so the opposite of that is divide by. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So in this case, everything over here divided by 2. So p minus 2w all divided by 2 would be equal to, that cancels, I'd be left with L. So there's just reorganizing on formulas. Just remember, don't freak out. Just think of them as if they're numbers. What would you do if it was like a 2? Well, if it was multiplied by 2, I'd divide by 2. So if it's multiplied by L, divide by L. All right?